Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming back to another Helm weekly developer community call. And as always, we follow the CNCF guidelines. And I put the notes in the chat. If you have any agenda items, we usually start with announcements, then move on to a discussion, and then any shout outs. So please add any items. We can start with announcements. Karen, I see you added a topic. Thank you. If you'd like to talk about if you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, so a email just went out, I think last week, or maybe earlier this week, but basically, I guess it's already time again, but the CFPs for the project maintainer track is open. So just kind of an announcement to let any of the maintainers, actually, if any of the contributors are also interested in presenting, I think there may be space for that. But yeah, the CFP for the Helm maintainer talk is open now and will be open until January 27th. So we have like almost 2 months, but just wanted to put that out there to kind of see if anyone wants to start thinking about any interesting talk topics. Yeah, and then as we get closer, I'll probably just start a HackMD so people can work on the CFPs together. But yeah, it's currently open. I linked to the CFP page if anyone wants to see the specific details. But yeah, that's it.
Awesome, thank you. I do have some ideas, so I'll look at that and then either start a Slack or in the maintainer channel. Does anybody else have ideas for the maintainer talk? Or will be, I guess we should also ask, is anybody planning on being at KubeCon in Amsterdam next year?
I was going to ask, that is the audience, KubeCon Amsterdam, KubeCon Europe 2023. Okay, I can think. I don't have any ideas
though. I'll put into. Sorry, my dog is having a hard time. I'll put into the document who's already said, or Karen, if you want to. I'll be there, and Andy will be there. And then moving on to, we don't have any other announcements, so moving on to discussion topics. George, I see that you added one already, which is a great topic. If you'd like to talk about it.
Yeah, sure. So I just started like trying to help out a couple of weeks ago, and one of the obvious things was there's a lot of different requests come in. Maybe 30% of them seem to be just people just haven't read the docs properly. But the other ones are either like genuine bugs or they are quasi feature improvements. There's not many which are like large scale features for Helm. Most of them are like, I know, for example, one PR was wanting to convert some of the weight functionality for install to using watches. And I'm just trying to get like a grasp on like how to point people in the right direction to first like generally socializing the idea is always the best thing for a PR, I think, or my experience. And so helping them to like kind of get the idea across so people can, which I presume means the maintainers, can say, yes, it's a good idea, go ahead, or no, this won't work for some reason, or when we need to discuss more. So yeah, that's what I kind of mean by fun, was like, how do we like get people pointed in the right direction when they come with ideas or even bug fixes, which may be like non-trivial amounts of code, or so that was my question. I don't know if anybody has any answers, but anyway, that's what I was hoping to discuss.
So typically people bring it to this call, and I know in the Helm Slack you've been pointing people here, and that's awesome. Okay. I think as we get to the end of the year, we haven't had as many maintainers joining because of crunches and deadlines. So we've been trying to get more of them to come to this call again, and I'm sure they will. More of the core maintainers. And Andy, you're one of the core maintainers now. And thank you for joining the call. Do you have thoughts on this?
Not right now. I apologize. My voice is a little weak.
No worries.
Yeah.
I know you've been traveling the world right now. But it's a great topic, George, and we'll bring it back up to the maintainers.
Okay.
But yeah, historically, between KubeCon North America and then the end in New Year's, it's kind of been a little slower.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
will
I'm happy to continue to point people in this direction. I can give my my limited experience advice on some PRs I find, but apart from that, I just don't know where the position might lie if there's kind of opinions involved, or so I can point these ones towards the meeting, and hopefully there's more of a presence. But maybe
We appreciate all that you're doing, and I see all your notes in the Slack channel. So thank you.
yeah, no problems. Thank you.
Maybe to add my 2 cents here. For me, it sometimes feels weird to give like feedback on PRs to people without knowing if it even has a chance to get merged, right? So I request some changes, say, oh, you should add a test here and there, and then like 2 months later, a maintainer has a look and says, yeah, okay, this we won't merge that. It's not compatible, backwards compatible, which maybe I didn't see because I'm not that experienced, right, with the code base. So then I would feel like, yeah, I wasted that person's time, right? Did some requests, and they went out and made the changes, and in the end it was just for nothing.
At least from a maintainer standpoint, we certainly appreciate all the efforts that you're putting in to help provide input, because we use you guys to triage to be able to provide insights into, okay, should we look at this? Should we not look at this? Does it make sense? So really any type of feedback to any contributor is certainly well warranted and well valued, because at least when it comes to like testing, if they need to add tests, they're going to probably come back with an additional contribution that has a better chance to be accepted, and they'll know the process of going through what would need to be there for it to be accepted. So I think in the end, even though one use case may not be, I think down the road it would benefit them in the holistic future.
Okay, so yeah, I can also make sure my language is more suggestive rather than authoritative when I'm making these comments, because I do agree with Philip. It's hard to give advice knowing that you might be wrong because you don't have enough insight. But I still think there's a way forward for most things, is to say, I think this is the right thing, but if you're not sure, we probably should discuss in this call, which seems to be the answer. That helps me. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up, George.
No problem.
So our next topic item is Philip. If you'd like to go ahead.
Yes, so I thought about like proposing a warning function or warn function to the templating engine. So we already have the fail function, right? But for some occasions, maybe someone is using some deprecated flag on your chart, and you just wanna warn them that in the future you will remove this setting, something like that, or if someone is using the latest tag, you want to print, something like that. You can have this, call this warning function with a string, for example, and this will then get recorded. You could think of then adding flags, like fail on warning or something, right? That someone who wants a strict validation for this can work on top of this. But probably I would start simple with with just a way to create these warnings first, and later on we could extend, maybe give it a way to be able to write it as a JSON file, so you can further process them in your PR validation, something like that, right? That you can then build on top. But I think we would need a low-level concept of a warning first. I don't know if someone has already looked into this direction. There's already some prior work. Maybe someone has already proposed it and it was discarded. So just wanted to gather quick feedback before I start drafting some API for this, how this could work.
Andy, have you had a chance to look at it? Or George, did you look at it too?
I have not yet, no.
I think I did, but I looked at a lot of things, so I'm trying to recollect. Let me. Do you have the link, Philip?
Oh, I didn't create anything yet. It was
Okay.
just
Yes,
just an idea.
I have
Oh, I
seen that. Yeah,
I
What-
thought,
like
creating-
while authoring our chart that we have, like we have some library chart that we distribute internally in the company. We sometimes have to deprecate some thing, or yeah, just want to allow a setting that might be not optimal, but for the dev case it's okay, right? So then we want to have some warning, don't do this in production, something like that, right? Here and there we found it handy. We tried to add this to the nodes, but yeah, this is not very visible, right? And even for subcharts, the nodes aren't even rendered then by default, at least. So yeah, that's how this came up, basically by using Helm. And I thought about, yeah, there's nothing in there. At least I haven't found anything. So before I start any work on this topic, I wanted to get some quick feedback here.
And I see that Scott joined, so I just wanted to recap that Philip was, he hasn't written a PR, but he's proposing a warn template function, and he's wondering if anybody's thought about this. So Scott, wondering if you've seen that or thought about it.
Yes, there is a fail. You mean only a warning, or do you mean like a full failure?
So basically something that doesn't fail the templating process, right? But like, I don't know, prints to standard error, for example, that you, yeah, whatever the chart author then passes in as a message, right?
Can you elaborate? You said like a warn error. Like, can you give an example?
Yeah, for example, deprecations, I guess, is one prominent examples for printing warnings, right? Yeah. Or like using the latest tag. It's what we would probably do in our chart. If you pass in the latest tag, we would say, yeah, that's fine. If you want to do this for testing, but if you want to go to production with this, probably you shouldn't, right? So
This actually is gonna tie into an issue that I've been tracking recently regarding how data is presented to the screen. Because a lot of people use Helm template to render text out to a file or pipe it into kubectl. If you have more text coming out the screen, how should it be presented? Because we changed logic recently to print out some data as standard error, and it has caused issues with other people. How would you see that working? Because you would have potentially data coming back as clear text, and then other data which would be adjacent of the YAML formats. They would have to be in different streams. So just something to think about, because I hoped that we would be able to go to standard error for this is an OCI thing, and it worked well, but people were using, or I think it really rears its head on Windows because it sees standard error as a literal error, and it causes failures to occur. So think about that as you start working through that process.
Yeah, so I guess it would be a rather controlled way, because the chart author would have to explicitly call this function, right? So it's not something that just happens randomly, but you really, like, the chart author decided to print this.
But as a consumer of that, how would that be presented? Because you'd be assuming
Yeah.
it's just going to be Kubernetes manifests, and you all of a sudden have these random strings come along with it.
Yeah. Of course, that's something that would need to be considered, but before we go into this,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just,
yeah. But I'm not. It's not a solution here. It was more just to call that out as a consideration to have as you look at working through that
Oh.
process.
The only other thing that comes to mind here is there is something similar already when the API server changes, has deprecations, there already are warnings printed. So it would kind of be similar to these as
Yes.
well. There is kind of an
So-
established pattern here.
It will, and I think I think they print that out in a different image, in a different, and they may use standard error as well. So if they do, why is it all of a sudden causing issues with some consumers versus others? And we can look into those implementation details, but yeah, if we can model it in the same way that that those API deprecation errors that the CRDs now provide, that would be great.
Yeah, so just to be clear, do you want to, is the ask, because I'm hearing a couple of different things. Something that would happen automatically for all charts, like API deprecation, that's something that wouldn't really be on chart authors wouldn't be able to do exactly. Or at least that's what it sounds like. That's not really what the ask is, but it sounds like, Philip, what you're asking about is a way for chart authors to deprecate specific images, and there are ways to do that. And the main way I can think of right now is, since you're talking about something that a user can pass through Helm values, you can do that in the notes.txt output of the file.
Yeah.
You can do that right now. So like if you like you can say if values, service image is greater than, whatever, or less than something, less than
This
or
is-
equal to blah, then go ahead and print out this warning. You can do that right now. And then like if you want a failure, there is a trick that's not really very well publicized that we used when we moved from the old centralized Helm stable and incubator repos to Helm Hub and then Artifact Hub. What we did for a time was we uploaded charts with a failed function trick. It's not called failure, but like you can trick it to fail and print out a message. So if you wanted to do something really like a hard fail, you can do that too. And if we need to find that, I can help find that.
No, I know the failed function, right? But that's
Okay.
a bit hard for just a deprecated value, right? If you fail on a deprecated value, it's basically not deprecated, but removed feature already.
But you want a non-zero, or excuse me, you want still a zero exit status, right? But you just want to print a warning.
Probably yes.
Is notes.txt not sufficient for that?
I guess it would be, maybe if it's built into the Helm CLI, there could be even like a flag for users to pass, like strict or like fail on warning or something, right? That maybe in your CI you use this flag, and when you deploy, you leave it away. So you just when you do PR validation, for example, on your chart, then you want to make sure that it fails when there's a warning printed, but not in production. Maybe something like that. That if that's like a built-in feature into Helm, it's a lot more visible, I guess, than if you just put it in the nodes. For example, nodes are not rendered for subcharts, right? So there's no chance as a subchart to produce warnings.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's, I can point you to some past issues, but let me see if I can if I can find them. I'll send them over. There's a couple issues for this similar to this, but only for Helm template. quite a while ago.
Okay.
Basically, just for future or for continued discussion, it's pretty old. And then again, but it's similar conversations.
Mhm.
Hey, Scott, do you want
Yes.
to put the rest of those into the notes?
Sure,
Or what's
absolutely.
the follow-up from this?
Yeah, this was just like to link to some past conversations. I think a follow-up would be to look into these or to look into past discussions, Philip, and if they don't feel like they're sufficiently addressed, I mean, I think you're doing the right thing bringing it up here, and it seems like such an option for chart authors would be, it'd be a hip, you know.
Yeah, probably.
And we could, and then we could follow up there. So yeah, I'll put these in here and
Mhm.
and then Andy, what I didn't totally get is what you were asking about is it sounds kind of related, but kind of different too. It was about a feature request to have was it automatic deprecation warnings for deprecated APIs?
No, this is already available in Kubernetes. Kubernetes already prints that out to you. And
Right.
and the question I had is, how does it get printed out? Because if you do a OC apply or OC, whatever, and then dry run it, it's gonna be able to print it locally, but still present those warnings. It probably puts it into a different output stream. If we can model it the same way, it would align with what Kubernetes is doing and provide the features. So what I'd recommend to Philip is to take a look at what the kubectl does and try to, if you want to go down this path, try to model it the same way.
Yeah, I saw that as well. We write some pod disruption budgets previously, and I think they moved to a different API version or something. Yeah, that's just inline printed, I guess, on standard error.
Right, and if it's standard error, that's fine. But we ran into an issue with some folks because we changed some things on the OCI side to move comments very similar to standard error, which is basically the artifact details of where it's being sourced from. And people are running into issues because it's now causing failures on like systems like Windows. I think it's PowerShell that causes it to return a response code of 1 because it notices the detection of a standard output or standard error output. So I just want to make sure that if we can get parity between whether what kubectl is doing and what Helm's doing, it will provide a experience similar.
Even Helm is already doing that. This is happening in client Go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's already happening in Helm. If you in your template have make use of a deprecated API from Kubernetes.
Right.
So yeah.
Andy, do you have an issue? Can you link that issue that you're talking about if it's
Yeah,
public?
yeah, it's public.
And just put it, I know we have very little time and Karen was asking already about volunteers for next week.
I can continue to the triage.
Thank you, George. Really appreciate that you are triaging.
It's all right. It's kind of fun to be honest, but
Yeah. I don't know how much time I will have next week. Pretty limited probably, but maybe can have a look as well.
So I posted in the issue regarding standard error. That was reported in the chat.
You know, George, when you're doing triage and stuff, do you want to chat in Kubernetes Helm Dev Slack channel?
What do
I
you mean
mean,
by
feel
chat?
free, basically,
Sure.
is what I'm saying, because
Oh, do you mean ask
there are some other
questions
people
there?
that are helping too. And having a bit of a community around what's being done. I mean, it can be completely async, but just if you wanted to be like, hey, I'm on and looking at blah.
Okay, sure. I got you. Sure.
Also, sorry, I was like insanely late today, even though I had volunteered to moderate. So I'm not going to volunteer for next week because I think next week might be hard for me.
We appreciate when you can show up. Thank you for, we appreciate all of you, appreciate all of you
Yeah.
coming. Seriously. I was gonna say that it'd be great, Philip, if you wanna, maybe your follow-on, maybe also do the same in the Helm Dev Slack, so other people see that you're writing a HIP or what you're talking about. Okay. Well, we have 1 minute left. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up?
I just took two issues in the chat. One was the one that I mentioned earlier, where there's a PR to convert weight, and it's just for jobs at the moment. That's 48, well, 11348. But what I would like to understand for this PR, without going into too many details, is it would require RBAC watch. Additionally, the current watch mechanism just polls. Would this be a blocker in terms of compatibility? To ask like the direct question. Or would that be something to discuss next week?
I think since we're at time, can you bring it up next week?
Sure. It was worth a try, but yeah, I think too many details.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, feel free to bring that up in the Helm Slack channel too.
Sure, makes sense.
Thanks
Thank you.
all.
All right. Till next
Bye.
week. Thank you, everybody. Bye.